Hey guys, Metal Driver here bringing you another AEW Unrivaled review. Today I'll be looking at Series 1, Kenny Omega. Looking at the sides of the box, you see an AEW logo and an image of Kenny Omega. The back of the box features an image of Kenny Omega, his signature, the date and event which his picture was taken, and the rest of the figures that are in this wave. Alright, now that we have looked at the box, let's go ahead and open this figure up and take a closer look at Kenny Omega. And here is Kenny Omega out of the packaging. But first, let's take a look at the accessories that he comes with. So out of the packaging, he comes with a left gripping hand and a right pointing finger with his thumb up. Then the additional swappable hands that he has is a right gripping hand and a left pointing finger with his thumb up. Then his other pieces of accessories are his entrance gear. So he has this entrance jacket. It is a plastic jacket. So he has one part that's sleeveless, the other part is sleeved. And this one does hinder the articulation. As you can see, this part just came off, so it does peg in there, so you can close this up. However, it's rubbery, so it's not exactly the most stable. And then looking at the paint, so it's got some silvers all around. The line work looks pretty good for the most part. You can see that there's more silvers on the side. And it's got this neat design here. Again, paint looks really good. Then looking at the sleeve, you get the same silver lines. Again, the line work is pretty good. Not a whole lot of sloppiness. Maybe just some slight mispaint on the shoulder there. And you got a gold star. And looking at the back, you got purple going down. Paintwork looks good. You got some nice sculpt work on the back here. And you've got some angel wings, just sculpted pretty well. Shoulder pad, sculpted well. Also, then you've got the collar, which does have some sloppy paint. So unfortunately, if you're trying to pick out the one with the best paint, you won't be able to see this because it'll be hidden in the packaging. Alright, then the other entrance gear that he has is his gauntlet. She looks pretty good. It's nicely sculpted, looks pretty well done. It's got this rubbery feel to it, so it does not hinder the articulation. Painted pretty well for the most part. Then you've got some nice sculpt work on the inside of the gauntlet. Got the strap, the buckle. It's overall pretty good. Then these pieces do come off, so to get the gauntlet off, you're going to want to pop the hand right off. As you can see, gauntlet came off really easily. Then I went ahead and put on the gripping hand. Alright, then this part should come off pretty easily. Usually these plastic jackets can be a pain to take off, but we only have one sleeve here, so let's see. Alright, so not too bad. Alright, and like the Jericho figure, he's got this plastic covering here to protect the arm, so that's good, but you can just easily take this off. Alright, and taking a look at the head sculpt. It's sculpted pretty well. The paintwork came out pretty good on this figure. The line work on the beard looks good. The lips look good. The eyes look good. The eyebrows look pretty good as well on both sides. The likeness to Kenny Omega looks decent. I don't think it looks the best, in my opinion. At least in my opinion, the Cody Rhodes and the Chris Jericho figure had a better likeness on their figures. This one, again, it's not the worst. It's not the best either. It is passable. It'll do. Then the hair is sculpted pretty well. It's got all the curls. It's not jet black. It's got this almost bluish gray look to it, as if it's frosted. Now, I will say that it is disappointing that it doesn't have the blonde highlights, like how the picture on the packaging has. So it's a little annoying that they went with this color. However, if you did order the exclusive from the Authentic Scale ring, that one has the corrected hair. Alright, then looking at the body. So as I mentioned in my Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes review, the skin tones do not match, especially here with the upper torso and the lower part of the torso where the abs is located. Although I will say on this Kenny Omega, it doesn't seem as noticeable in person, but you can still tell that there is a mismatching tone. And then the arms aren't too beefy. They're not super thick, not super thin, but it is sculpted pretty well. And the musculature on the figure is sculpted pretty good as well. So I like how that looks. And he's got his wrist tape painted on both wrists. Alright, then looking at the lower part of the figure. So starting out here at the waist, we have his belt, which is sculpted. So not a whole lot of detail. It's just a standard belt. The buckle is painted pretty well. Then looking at the back, you have his Omega logo, which is painted pretty well. Looks really cool. I like that. Now look at the sides, you've got K Omega. Again, paintwork came out really well on that. Doesn't look sloppy or too blurry, so I like how that turned out. You've got this purple kind of fading into the black. Same thing on the knee pads, you got this purple fading in onto the black. You have this white designs all over, which looks really good. On the other knee pad, you've got the Omega logo. The design on the right leg looks really good. Paint came out really well. The lettering here looks really good. It's nice and crisp. Doesn't look too blurry or too sloppy. Then looking at the boots, here at the shin guards, it has the same design with these white line work. And you've got purple kind of bleeding in with the black, so that looks really good. So I like the paint work. I like how it looks. I like the aesthetic of the paint. It's not just a solid, thick paint. It kind of mimics almost a spray paint look. That looks really cool. Then it goes on to the foot. So really well done. Paint work turned out very well on this figure. Really happy with how that looks. Alright, going over the articulation. So the head is on a ball joint and a hinge. It doesn't go very far up at all due to the plastic of the hair. He can look down pretty well. His head can turn side to side, and it doesn't really tilt all that much. Shoulder has a hinge which allows it to go really high up. It can rotate all the way around. There's a bicep swivel, a double jointed elbow, which again, I love how the Unrivaled figures have this. There's a swivel at the wrist and a hinge. There's a ball joint at the diaphragm, which allows for some really good motion and rotation. You can crunch that far forward and crunch that far back. The waist has another ball joint, which allows it to twist side to side and allows him to crunch even further forward, adding to the range of motion, and it can allow him to crunch even further back. So that is some really good range. The hips have a ball joint which allowed the legs to go really far out and go pretty high up. He has a thigh cut, double jointed knees. There's a cut at the top of the boot. The ankle has a hinge which allows it to go that high up, that far down, and he has some really good ankle pivot. In fact, actually mine is really loose, so I'm gonna have to tighten that up myself. Alright, so what are my final thoughts on the Kenny Omega figure? I think this is a really cool figure. I like the paint work. I like how it turned out. The articulation is great. He comes with a cool entrance jacket. Even if it does hinder his left arm, it's still a really cool piece of accessory. Now, I do have some minor gripes with the figure. I'm not a fan of the head sculpt. It's not a bad head sculpt, it's just really not the best one. So hopefully if they do make another Kenny Omega figure that we get an updated sculpt, at least one that looks a little closer to his likeness. I also would have preferred if he had the blonde highlights in the hair rather than this dark grayish bluish hair color that he has. But those are just minor gripes that I have with the figure, nothing that would prevent me from enjoying the figure. Now the one flaw that I have mentioned in my Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes reviews is that these figures have mismatching skin tones and that the figures look a little pale. The good news is that on September 1st, Jeremy Padower, one of the partners at Jazzwares, announced on Twitter that they would be addressing the issues with skin tones along with some other issues that they were addressing. Essentially what he said in his Twitter thread, that they would be fixing the skin tone and how it looks. They would be subtle changes, but essentially we would be seeing that after the release of Wave 2, and they would actually re-release Wave 1. So these would be, I think, variants or chase figures. The boxes would be slightly changed, and that there would be a subtle change in the skin tone. So I'm glad that they're addressing that. I'm glad that they're going to fix that, because essentially that was really the biggest issue that I had with this toy line. And even then, it wasn't enough for me to say that you shouldn't get this, because this line of figures are really good. I think it's definitely worth picking up the first wave. This Kenny Omega figure is really cool. I think you should definitely pick it up, especially if you're a fan of Kenny Omega and if you're a fan of AEW. So if you like this review, go ahead and hit that like button. I do reviews of WWE Elites, and I will also be doing reviews of AEW Unrivaled figures. As always, stay tuned till the end to see pictures of this figure in action, and I'll see you next time.